The Crows are kings of Adelaide, taking the ledger in the showdown, while the geriatric Pies flag tilt isn't showing any signs of a slowdown. A pulsating finish in Hobart saw the reigning premiers held to a draw, but it probably wasn't enough for Damo to say he liked what he saw. Harry Mackay is in form for the Baggers, the Baby Bombers have discovered their swagger, and Clary's now a tagger. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub to dissect everything from round 9 and look towards a huge round 10. We are joined, of course, by St Kilda mafioso, two-time All-Australian Joey Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. Yes, I can't wait to see who Damo picks when we get to the tips later on. North Melbourne v Richmond. That's going to be fun, but I also get a bit nervous when I come in and say, what are we going to talk about off the top? And nobody says anything. That makes me slightly nervous.
Father-to-be for the second time, Collingwood superstar, Carlton player, Daisy Thomas.
Yes, good morning to all. Up and about this week.
Yep.
We've sort of got over that little lull after the big 3 weeks of Easter. We've got Gather Round and then Anzac Day last week. A little bit slow today, up and about, ready to go.
How good's footy, though? The week we had last week. We'll get on that. All those close games and sensational.
Hardest working man in footy media, Vol Damo himself, Damien Barrett.
Hello to you, Rabsy, and I'm like you, Joey. Just a moment before we started recording the show, we said, what have we got? And someone said, we've got something. I had no idea about it. You had no idea
And
about
Daisy's
it.
got a glit in his eye.
And Daisy looked away. So one of us is about to cop it. I fear it's me.
Well, the good news is for you, Damo, it isn't about Joey. And it has to be addressed. North Melbourne were fantastic.
Yep.
They should have won the game. I grant you that. But they're playing against the reigning premiers who are still a very good side. Your North Melbourne Football Club, how many wins in how many years?
I know the answer to that.
You do. You bring it up every day.
It's 15 wins in the previous 5 seasons, and they've had 1 win this year. So 6 wins in 5.5 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you would have thought, and I would have thought, Joey, if you're watching your footy side, they put in a great effort, just a little bit of class at the end probably was the difference in not finishing it off.
Great effort.
If you got asked about it, you'd be pumped up. You go, yep, I've been harsh on them, but they'd be all right.
Absolutely. I can see it. The last 3 weeks, 11 points to Port Adelaide. They should have beat Essendon if Finland bar Maley had to kick the goal.
Should have, could have, would have.
And then this week, they've just run the reigning premiers to within a draw and probably should have won. Great.
How many wins in the 3
Great.
matches
So
you're referring to?
If you're becoming a really negative person and really looking for a mean angle, who do you think you'd be referenced as?
Who would you be referenced as?
You work with this guy you're about to mention, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, let's have a listen to you with your negatives and positives from earlier in the week on the Rush Hour.
People might think I'm still harsh on North by putting them in the negatives here, but they didn't
got
win, Jim.
audio in there.
They didn't win.
Oh, my God.
And they had their chances, Jim.
You've become like Corn.
No, I haven't.
You have. You and Kane have got a target
Cynics.
on North Melbourne's
I would
back.
just like to watch a win with my son, who's now my 2 sons at 21 and
48.
19, and the last time he saw a win when I was with him was about 4.
They
I reckon. So
cannot go into the negatives this week.
they need to look
This is
at Sunday.
Corn-esque.
The way you're carrying
Don't,
on.
in fact, that's an offence. Don't say that. I take
Good.
offence at
If
you saying that.
if you're taking offence, that's good.
Corn-esque. And Joey, I probably should have worded you up so when I asked the question.
I should have known. How do you say it?
The old monkey in the hair.
Bracket. When you put in the same bracket. You know, just saying how positive it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Footy's great.
Footy is
on
great.
field, the footy's great. We'll get the off-field. On
You're allowed to
field.
call it the way you see it, boys. and last time I checked, it's a win-loss game, and maybe you need to harden
Were
up in
you-
your assessments of clubs.
Cheating on you now.
You want to come in and be positive about everything, you've got to call it the way you see it, Dace.
Wow, Voldamo goes bang! Covered in lava! Covered in
You're
lava!
accepting mediocrity.
There's positives everywhere.
No, there isn't. North of shit.
Well, they do have a huge game against Richmond. Damo, you got about 20 minutes to think about who you're going to tip and why.
Let me guess, West Coast.
I tipped North Melbourne against Essendon, and they lost. So I've done it this year. I may do it again. I'll just think about
we
it for
go.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Round 10 predictions are going to come fair dinkum or Fugazi, but while we're throwing some shade here, the umpiring, it's been absolutely shocking, and that's going to start your news that's coming up next.
Try and be positive there, Dace.
Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo, all thanks to BWS. Big thanks to BWS for jumping on board Midweek Rub this year. If you are choosing to drink, make sure you drink wise. Fair dinkum or Fugazi still to come. Round 10 predictions. But Damo, it is time for your news. And again, the way the game is being run is under the spotlight.
It's a massive issue, Rabsy. There's been a litany of problems now for the AFL football department this season, and the most recent one revealed by Days' show last night, Agenda Setters on Channel 7, that the Lachie Schultz concussion against Fremantle last Thursday was officially poorly, badly, wrongly handled by the game itself. Now, just to remind people, he was concussed in an incident in the last quarter. He made his own steam off the ground. That's an issue in itself. The umpires the next morning were said to be, by the AFL's own statement, to have missed the incident, which was the reason the play wasn't stopped. And then we saw on Days' program last night that there was indeed communication by the umpires at the point in time, and that in their eyes it should have been a bunker decision to be made. The problem now stretches into the AFL football department itself because of the statement it made on the morning after the game, saying the umpires didn't see it, move on. That is clearly not the case, and the reasoning behind all of that is now a key focus. We always time code this show because situations change. This issue will definitely change, possibly by the time you are listening to it out there. It's 10:16 a.m. on Wednesday, May 14, as we are talking right now. That's where it stands right now, but it's going to move this story, and it's not going to have a good outcome for the AFL, no matter what happens from here.
If we work through it sequentially, so the initial, we've missed it, and the delayed whistle that is now, or non-whistle, I think when you hear the audio of them saying, we've got to play it down, wait, yep, no, we're okay, wait, because, some players lay down and then they get up and they're fine. When Schultz gets up, it was already a bad look with the arm, but they missed that. When he gets up and then you hear in the audio, yeah, we're fine, and then he falls over and you get the through the microphone. That's the moment that the umpire has then missed, because that is an umpire reacting to what he's seen and waiting for another person to intervene. That is a time that the whistle should have been blown, and that's where they've failed the players.
If we stayed on field for the moment and what happened, I found it interesting, though, that when the umpire was explaining to one of the players on the field, he was saying that, well, we need to get told. We were waiting to be told. So is the protocols that the ARC should tell the umpires to stop play?
And it's a great point, Joey, because if you recall, about a year ago, the AFL invited a lot of media in to the bunker situation. It was a 3-hour presentation. I was part of it. And yes, my understanding of that is, upon that briefing, is there is communication from the bunker in every single game that relates to health of player. Now, we've seen a lot of incidents this year where play has been stopped. I felt I saw one incident where a player was doing shoelace up. It may have been a lower leg injury, but either way, it was an unusual, historically, reason to stop play at that point in time. We've seen it done for cramp regularly this season. Yep. So there is a care as an outset of their plans for the treatment and control of a game of footy, but those plans clearly went out the window at the heightened point of a player being concussed on Thursday night just gone.
Did the umpires then think that they've followed the right protocols? Yes. They were waiting for an instruction, they didn't get one. So if that's the case, why would they then need to...
My belief on that, to answer your question, is yes, based on that briefing that the AFL gave media last year.
My frustration with all of this is, if this was more serious for Lachie Schultz and he had some sort of neck injury, and then because the game didn't stop, he just continued to get up. They've called for a stretcher and he still made his way off the ground because the game wasn't stopped. So there's the chance there of further injury, which is a massive miss. But last night I was pretty, stern with my thoughts on what the umpires had done and how they'd missed it. And then if they had then lied to the AFL. It's since come out that the umpires are filthy with how it's been handled, allegedly filthy with how it's been handled, and they've been thrown under the bus. So me breaking that down, does that mean, from what I'm reading between the lines, the AFL had spoken to the umpires, they've probably informed them, and then the statement that's come out isn't exactly as to what the umpires have said?
I'm really keen to see how they do play this out beyond this point of our conversation today, because they're going to need to say something.
But is that the right vibe?
Yeah,
I find that hard to believe the umpires would have just blatantly lied to their bosses at AFL. I found that listening to it last. I find that hard to believe.
I do too, and it does get back to the other question. That statement came out pretty quickly. Again, historically speaking, the AFL doesn't always quickly respond to an issue straight away. It does raise the question, Days, did they and were they across everything? Had they listened to the audio that your program clearly had prior to going with the story last night in the way that you analysed it and dissected it? And if they didn't, why didn't they? Because there's not a right answer now, or I should say a good outcome answer for the AFL on this. So there either is a cover up, or they haven't done what they should have done.
Now the bigger picture, when you look at AFL House, the amount of issues, so the Willowioli incident the week before, but now there is disconnect with the umpires, with AFL House, the players with the code of conduct and what's a fine and what's punishment and what's not. The coaches and the clubs, we know there's a disconnect at the moment with AFL House.
Yep.
There's a common theme there.
Yep.
Are we going to see any repercussions or anything come out of this? Because this has been now an ongoing saga with the leadership at AFL.
And the club's relationship with the AFL is I feel, the most problematic one, because there's even, I feel anyway, a lack of trust. And that was evident in the Willie Rioli situation. The two incidents that ultimately formed the outcome of their own inquiries subsequent to the threat that he made were of a nature where those two clubs, Essendon and Geelong, had really not bothered informing the AFL of it. And you need to ask the question why. Because did they feel that there's no point, that nothing would be done about it? Is it just going to be a waste of time? So I think that's where the whole story goes, Joey, and it is at a crisis point. And you've got key people like Brian Walsh, who is the chief, I suppose, executive when it comes to PR at the AFL. He's about to leave. He's about to go take a holiday before he actually finishes up. So there's one issue there. You've got Paul Marsh at the AFL Players Association leaving that organisation really soon too. So people in key positions within all organisations are also now about to be absent at a time when you need control over messaging.
I think we all understand with so many moving parts in our game that some things will be missed. But if you come out and then own up to it being poorly handled, or you've gone too early with the release with the information you had, that's the bit that is now just really irritating the public, I think, as we've somewhat been gaslit to what is the truth, what isn't, had the wool pulled over your eyes. And now the fans are starting to become, as part of all of that, the clubs, the players, the fans are now all irate with the big house there.
Well, Lachie Schultz will miss this week, Damo, for the Pies, but he's not their only injury concern.
Yeah, he is. And obviously out of that game, you saw Darcy Moore go down late with a shoulder injury. He's now been ruled out for the next game of footy. Geordie De Goey didn't play in that game. They've now revealed, or at least they're saying publicly, that it's an Achilles strain. He looks really banged up. They chose to leave Scott Pendlebury out of that game. Maynard missed that game as well. Myercheck missed it. They are still all in the mix now to return this particular week. But the way they're managing this season, it is extreme levels of professionalism here. The loss that they had to GWS in the opening round by 52 points, and to think that they've only lost one match since that game by 3 points to Geelong 2 weeks ago. It's extraordinary what they've done to this point, and they've done it in a way that does take the big picture into focus.
Yeah, it's really the only thing I think that now that's going to stop Collingwood from being their prelim night is the health of their playing group. If they are fit and healthy, they will be there. We know about the ageing list, and once we get to these middle sort of months, it can be a concern. So that is the biggest challenge. If they can keep looking after their players, they'll be fine. But it's that sort of fine. It's a bit of a tightrope, isn't it, with these players that are now starting to get little niggles and things, but they're doing a pretty good job at the moment.
Have they got a game plan that doesn't or isn't so much reliant on who's there more system?
I think we saw that from Thursday night, didn't we? That even without some of their big names, particularly on offense, that they were still able to perform the way they did.
You analysed the game better than anyone I know. 34 inside 50s to win a game quite convincingly when it said that.
Very impressive.
It's unheard of.
No,
but
absolutely.
To Daisy's point, they just find a way.
Yeah,
the scenarios are in front of them.
Yep, and the way they've normally been winning is playing a front half game, so they can do it in multiple different ways, which is a great strength of the best teams.
Probably speaks to how poor Freo were as well.
That's another story. Rory Lobb, I just want to throw him into this conversation in this segment today because it was about 12 months ago where he couldn't even get into the senior team at the Bulldogs, and he was going to be leaving the footy club and go to a fourth one for even as early as this year. Well, he's just signed a new deal to take in the 2026 season as a Bulldog, and as much as there's been a lot of good positivity and great impact by individuals in the Bulldogs, particularly this season, you could mount a case that he's up there in the most important with how he's played his role and has allowed others around him to flourish.
Yeah, 100%. And again, credit to Bevo for actually giving him a crack at centre-half back and seeing him and O'Donnell now hold up the back line. It just shows how much things can change in footy, not over just over a long period of time, but in short times. And this is a great story.
And Days, Luke Jackson, Mitch Cleary has been reporting regularly, and others have as well, but there's just this noise that's now exploding in Perth that he will seek a release of the Dockers contract to get back to where he won a premiership in 2021, the Melbourne Footy Club. There's a lot to play out here. He's contracted long term, and then obviously if they were to engage in that conversation, the Cozzy Pickett element to it is huge as well. But It's unusual, isn't it, to see what happened only 2 years ago for Luke to go back to Perth from where he's from, but to now want to seek release. And his noises around this are not refuting this, even though he did publicly say that he was going to stay recently.
Well, yeah, as the saying goes, if there's smoke, there's generally a new pope or there is fire. And the fact that there is so much noise coming around this, and the two ruckmen, one as a forward, Darcy isn't a forward, and that's evident from what happened on the weekend. They've got a lot of players down there who aren't genuine forwards, which is why you're seeing 3 or 4 go for the same mark. You're unaware of the space that's yours, the space that someone else is. For Luke Jackson to come back, it's a miss from Freo, isn't it, to go and shop
if he wants to, yeah.
If he wants to, and if he does.
But then he's got the problem with going back to a team that's got Max Gawn in it. And we saw it happen to Brodie Grundy.
The Brodie Grundy and then to Sydney, and now this back, Max probably a little bit further down the road, but doesn't look like stopping in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know. The two ruck, philosophy, I don't think anyone has obviously nailed it, and I don't know how you actually do.
I will say, like we just spoke about with Rory Lobb, a lot can happen. My understanding is he's said publicly that he's happy, and internally he enjoys being at Fremantle. So I know there's some external noise that none of that's come from him or his camp. They are happy at the moment. So
where's it coming from then?
Well, there's other
Melbourne players.
There's other people. There's other external sources that have got lots of views. So there's a chance that it might happen. But
are you saying this on the back of having an arrangement with the club in question?
No, this is my knowledge is that there's no indications from anyone at the club or from his camp that he actually does want to go. Now, that's obviously if there is smoke and these things can happen, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's got a Bailey Smith feel to it, this one, the way it's unfolding. Now, Bailey Smith ultimately was out of contract this time last year, whereas Luke Jackson's in contract, but the noises won't go away.
Got a must-win game, Freo against the Giants this weekend. We'll get your round 10 predictions soon, but up next, it is fair dinkum or Fugazi and Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, Joey, Daisy and Damo. Let's start with you, Damo. Jamara Ugle-Hagan could take some inspiration from Jesse Hogan.
Fair dinkum, Rabsy, to kick things off today. Yeah, I mean, obviously referring to the redemption story of Jesse Hogan at his third footy club before he actually got that redemption. But what a player. The Coleman medalist last year, an All-Australian, and fresh off a 7-goal performance against the Cats on the weekend, just gone. So, yeah, that is possibly a blueprint. I think he's got a few other issues to wade through, Jamara, before he can even get to that stage. And he's a lot younger than what Jesse Hogan was when he finally clicked into footy gear. But, yeah, it's a fair dinkum response.
One of the best footy stories going around, Jesse Hogan. Daisy, the Suns should play more games in Darwin.
Fair dinkum. The stats don't lie. They go up there. They
go
win.
Undefeated.
That's it.
They'd be 23 and zip.
So they are flying up there. They play a really good brand. I reckon this week's probably their biggest test up there, but I'm not sure the ball and the conditions are conducive to how the Hawks play.
Joey, the Giants should play more games at GMHBA Stadium.
That's fair dinkum too. They should play half their games there. They are flying last 5 against the Cats. No one wins down at GMHBA Stadium, let alone win 5 on the trot. So well done.
Here's another BWS stat. Ooh. Adam Kingsley is 100% strike rate against Chris Scott, all venues.
Wow.
Good stat.
Wow.
Thank you.
Damo, with Caddy, Darcy, Tracy and Thilthorpe, the next generation of key forwards are giving us a lot to look forward to.
Fair dinkum. Thilthorpe and Darcy, I feel, are close to established, and you could argue the same maybe with Tracy. Caddy's still a work in progress, but I like what I see on all 4 there, Rebsy.
Just on Riley Thilthorpe, Daisy, the Swans need to find whatever Ivan Drago-themed regime the Crows put him on while injured and use it for Logan McDonald.
Yeah, that is fair dinkum. And this is one of the things the Saints probably should have done it, excuse me, with Max King as well. Try and get somebody to put on some serious size because young forwards that take longer to develop, it's harder to get the size on and keep it on without breaking down. Time away from the game. So, yeah, the Swans should be encouraging all sorts of mud and meat eating and whatever he's doing down there. He's like the Liver King.
He is. Seriously, when he was injured, he looked like the kid from Road Trip. Yeah. Then he came out looking like Thor. I don't know what's happened.
100%.
From Road
It's
Trip.
ridiculous.
What'd you do, kill a cheater?
Joey, Darcy Cameron is in the box seat for his first All-Australian jacket.
I like this one, but I'll say Fugazi because he's got to get past Big Maxi. Maxi's still the
Does
number one.
Does he have to get past him, or can he just be accompanying
I don't think they'll do
him?
2. I don't think you put 2
They've
rucks.
done 2 in the
rucks
past.
don't work. We've already spoken about this.
They don't work, but you can pick him in an All-Australian on the bench.
Technically, you can.
And they have. I mean,
they have in the
Grundy,
past.
Yep.
He's right now. He's absolutely the second best ruckman in the competition. I don't think there's any dispute about that.
You've got him ahead of Cherry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I think he's doing a bit more with his intercept marking and helping Collingwood be the best defence in the competition. So I do got to get past Max first.
Daisy, I'm going to ask you this because you care less about stats than our man Joey, but Freo's loss shows that stats don't always matter.
That is fair dinkum. However, they do tell you a fair story. So having plus 30 odd inside 50s or a number near that shows you that when they're going in, they're clearly doing it too slow, which is allowing a lot of numbers to get back. And then conversely, when the Pies get it, there was a whole open field to go and kick the ball into, which is why they had 34 entries and kicked so many goals. So although they're not 100% important, they do tell you a good story.
Damo, Zach Reid has been well worth the wait.
Fair dinkum. Yeah, there was massive doubts on him, and there were probably even more doubts on him after the first 2 matches of this particular season. I mean, I remember the commentary saying that he just wasn't at AFL level, and here we are 7 weeks later, and he's you can see why they picked him top 10, and you can see a future with him. I love the story, and I love his resilience.
Of the 3 picks in that draft, he was always the one that was spoken about as being the best, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. So that was Perkins, Cox, and Reid. I think so. The 200-centimetre intercept defender, and it's taken a while, but well done for the Bombers.
The last time he conceded a goal against his direct opponent was against Adelaide in round 2.
Wow.
Flying.
Geez, you're coming in
what
with
is
your Joey
it?
stats.
Maybe,
Geez,
yeah.
Fourth stat reference.
I told you I was up and about.
Just need a laptop if you're allowed one.
No.
Joey, Schultz and Blakey prove there's still room for football incidents.
Yes, well, that is fair income. I'm glad that not everyone who gets concussed has to get, or someone has to be liable and responsible. So I like it. Yep.
Finally, been very quick, fair income or Fugazi.
It's a good one, though.
I'm going to play you a little bit of audio here, Daisy and Joey. This is from the Saturday Rub.
For McDonald's and Ream Hot Water, Triple M Rocks Footy, MCG, a big game today, Melbourne and Hawthorn. But before that, of course, the mighty, the magnificent Saturday Rub with you, Damien.
We are unravelling, Bill. It's round 9, and we are unravelling. Our leader, our famous host, is not to be seen. James Brayshaw, where is he, Jill?
Joey and Damo, fair income or Fugazi, after Bill and Damo hosting off the top of the Saturday Rub, JB is now redundant from that show.
No, that is absolutely Fugazi. JB, I mean, Billy's still just a young man learning his craft, so one day he'll get there.
I've seen that video, the disdain in Jim's eyes and his voice when he's talking to Bill. I didn't need to put up this. It was like a dad yelling at a child.
It's funny that Jim's still encountering traffic problems. You would have thought after 40 years of living in this town or whatever it is, he just doesn't realise there's a traffic moves slowly.
He blamed it on Clary Oliver, didn't he? He said
you reckon he saw him on the way
in the car park or something like that. The Saturday Rub is absolutely flying, and they've got a huge game, Collingwood versus Adelaide from the MCG this weekend. We are going to get your predictions for round 10 up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Huge round 10 of AFL action, of course, kicking off tomorrow night with the Thursday Rub ahead of Gold Coast versus Hawthorn at TIO Stadium in Darwin. Joey Montagna.
Yeah, this is a great weekend of footy. It starts tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. It's hard to tip against the Gold Coast Suns at Darwin. We spoke about it. They've won their last 7. They've been up there for over a week now. They've acclimatised. They play a great brand of footy. The Hawks are leaving a few senior players out of the team. I think Gold Coast keep rolling. Really do.
I'm going to go for the Hawks in this game. I know that they're going to start underdogs, and I know there's deficiencies with how they match up, but I just can't see them allowing the Suns to have an easy victory as a starting point, so I'm just going to go in the upset.
I don't think it'll be an easy victory, but I'm sticking with the Suns. The conditions, I somewhat fearful of the ball use of the Hawks, how they flick it round, but also on the same token, it's a high-scoring venue which will play into the hands of the Hawks, who do get that Hollywood hawk ball going. I'm just going to lean with the Suns, just on a little bit of trust at the venue.
Friday Huddle is firing on all cylinders. Damo, you're a part of that, and you are ahead of Sydney versus Carlton at the SCG.
I've got similar dilemmas in picking this game's result. I'm going to stick with the Blues. I really like what they've done in the past 5 weeks. There's been one loss amongst that, as we know, but I reckon they've got their game back, and I reckon they'll be able to target the Swans' key movers. They're in a world to hurt the Swans at 3 and 6, so Blues for me.
It's a big month coming up for the Swans. I say season defining when you look at what they've got to come, and it has to come with a win this week against the Blues. They then roll on to Melbourne. Adelaide's a tough one, and then Richmond before the bye. So if they can go 3-1 throughout that, they get to the bye at 6 and 7, and you get some players back after that. It's steady the ship and see how you go. But this game becomes ever so important, so I'm tipping the Swans.
I trusted the Swans last week against Essendon. They let me down. I'm with Damo. I think Carlton have been very good despite the win-loss record. They've only conceded more than 83 points in one game this year. That was the Adelaide game where they were very disappointing. Other than that, their defence has been elite, so I think they'll clamp Sydney. They'll have enough firepower with Mackay and Curnow in good form for Carlton to win this.
Kai in very, very good form. Daisy, Collingwood versus Adelaide, the MCG. Some weird shit happens when these two
Yeah,
teams meet.
it does.
There was an alarm that went off
yeah.
2 years ago. Last year, Isaac Rankin ran too far and ripped his hammy. How do you see this
Jordan
game?
Dawson got
Dawson
punched in the
got
face.
hit in the head.
Dawson, yeah.
Punch in the face, no free kick.
No Darcy Moore. Phil Thorpe looking like Thor.
Yeah, geez, it's hard to tip past the Pies, but I'm still bullish on what the Crows are doing and how they're playing. I didn't have them being as good or as solid and sound as they are in the preseason selections, but I'm really coming around to them. With that firepower, I'm going to lean towards the Crows in this
Ooh.
one, in an upset.
I am too. Yeah, I love the Collingwood story, and I like them in the bigger picture in a way more favourably than the Crows. But on the specifics of round 10, MCG, Saturday game, we've seen them nearly pull it off before the Crows. They will, in my eyes, this week.
I reckon there could be a little bit of rain too, Joey.
Okay, because I was
Little
going to
bit.
say last time Adelaide were at the MCG, they kicked 161 points, so they don't mind playing here, but it's hard to go past Collingwood. They just find a way, so I'll just stick with the obvious.
So the only one who tipped Collingwood's a bloke who hates them. Come on, guys. You get out of that.
You know he's doing it.
Yeah. Like you and Hawthorn. Port Adelaide
Didn't tip 'em.
versus Geelong, Collingwood. Joey.
Collingwood, Mr. Collingwood. Good. I'm going to trust Geelong, but as we time code this one, Wednesday, 10:40, I want to see Tom Stewart back in that team. That defence looks so much different without Tom Stewart and Jack Henry. The way they play and zone off and guard space and have to work together, it's a different kettle of fish. So if Tom Stewart plays, I'll tip the Cats.
You've heard me before. Cats, for me, you just tip them every week and you're usually successful.
I'm going to go with Damo's theory. Cats.
Righto. The Giants versus...
I'm going to say usually, more often
Yeah,
than
more.
not.
Yeah, percentages say.
The Giants versus Fremantle at Daisy. This is a huge game for both clubs.
It is, and Fremantle really need to find something, as we've touched on. They've, at this point in the season, arguably been the biggest disappointment from what we were all predicting pre-season and how we saw their year progressing. Do understand that there is a lot of footy to go, and the back sort of third of the year is the form guide you want. But I'd like to see them get a scalp against a decent side, and I don't think it comes this week. I'll be sticking with the Giants.
Same for me, for the same reasons.
Yeah, it looks like the Giants have got their game back. Jesse Hogan in form. The run and carry, Callahan and the halfback. So it's going to be a tough ask for the Dockers. I'll tip Giants.
Western Bulldogs versus Essendon Marvel Stadium Saturday night, don't we?
Liking what the Bombers have done, but against the team which I feel is already more established significantly inside 2025, the Bulldogs for me in this one quite easily.
Yes, I'm most confident on this one. It'd be my certainty. The Western Bulldogs are flying. I think they bounce back and win. If they recover okay from the Darwin trip.
Oh, a bit flat. Yeah, but also that game for the Bombers was hard fought as well. That wasn't an easy win. I'll stick with the Dogs as well.
We've been waiting on this game since the opener of the show. I'm going to start with you, Joey. Richmond versus North Melbourne at the Triple MCG.
North Melbourne are morals. North Melbourne will
Morals?
they will win this.
The
Yeah.
last time I heard you say that a side was immoral
was
was Fremantle against St Kilda on Friday night. Was 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
They kicked 1 goal half time.
North Melbourne have been building, and I think
This is it.
This is the one. They will win this one at the MCG. Absolutely, they can't lose.
I'm with you. They will take some real confidence out of what they've done the last 2 weeks. The Bombers really good, didn't quite get it done. The Lions a draw, who were the reigning premiers. This is the week. And maybe a little bit of a Kickstarter for the season. Go North.
Come on, Damo.
Here we go,
What have you got,
Damo.
Come on, Damo.
I am following you both in.
Yeah.
North Melbourne to beat Richmond. I tipped them to beat Essendon 2 weeks ago when they let me down again, but the Roos, I'm not going to say they're certainties like you are, Joey, but I'm tipping them.
You know why he's doing that though? He just if they lose,
Disappointed.
wait till
Yeah.
the big bazooka
please.
comes out. What would you do if they lose to Richmond? You bring
Cry.
the bazooka.
It's actually sad. Like, how many games they lose.
Turning the corner.
They do look a different side with George Wardlaw back in.
They
there.
do indeed.
how good's
yeah.
he?
Yeah, but he's only won 1 game out of 29. So.
That's all right.
Damo.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. They're the facts.
You two, Sunday Rub, absolutely flying. Brisbane versus Melbourne is the game you are ahead of. How do you see that, Daisy?
I think the Lions, yep, that's right. They should be too strong in this one. I think they'll be pretty disappointed with how they went down in Hobart against your side, Damo. They're wins that you just have to bank, and we've been speaking about how important it is to get the wins that you just should. They didn't do it, so I think they'll bounce back comfortably.
Brisbane for me too, and yeah, they'll need to get themselves up in a way that they weren't able to against North Melbourne, but back at home, and I can't imagine Chris Fagan allowing them to be lethargic again.
Yeah, spot on, Damo. They just rolled up to Tassie thinking they'd win. Little reality check, so that'll just give them a little prick they need, and they'll take care of Melbourne.
Does Clary tag Lockie Neal?
I would do it for one more week. Yeah, I'd give it another go.
I've got no issue with him being used as a tagger
Nah, neither do I.
at times.
Yeah.
So you go and lock down the opposition's best player. He'll still find the footy. He'll still be damaging, but he's strong enough to do a good job. We've seen Scotty Pendlebury be used against Paddy Cripps in that nature. I don't have the same blow up. If he's there as a pure tagger, then you've got issues. But as a role and to execute for the team, I think it's selfless and great.
And I
Without
saw
Jack Viney.
Yeah,
so-
and that's the theory.
Yeah.
Jack Viney was really struggling at the start of the year. They gave him a tagging role and he found some form. So I get the theory. I don't mind it. There's nothing wrong with it. Who cares what you're on? It's about helping the team win. And I think maybe goes to Neil one more week. Yep, like it.
Our digital guru, Jasper, has just sent me through a ripper BWS stat, Damo, but I'll tell you it after this last game. West Coast versus St Kilda at Optus Stadium.
They're a chance, the Eagles, but I'm not going to be tipping them. Saints for me, but in a close game.
I'm going to be tipping the West Coast Eagles. I think they get some confidence again out of almost being in a position you learn the lessons. Whether or not they emotionally come down from that too much, we wait and see. But I think they can, on their home patch, they've been better. They took it right up to the Bombers. I think this is a game they could win, and I'm going to tip them.
Yeah, I'm nervous as a St Kilda man. I think West Coast, they're going to win a game soon. Home, they play better. It's a scary proposition. Ross the boss up against his former pupil, Andrew McQualter, but I think Rossi will find a way to get the win.
You've been clipped by a couple of players for tipping against the Saints.
Yeah, I
a
know.
few
I was
times.
thinking about tipping West Coast because then it helps St Kilda win, but I'll tip the Saints.
Well, you can see every game or hear every game across round 10 on Triple M and the Listener app. Damo, the last time North won a game at the MCG,
Oh, no.
2017. Yeah.
It is sad.
It's okay. It's inside 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
One game. One game at one venue inside 8 years.
Wrap this up before he has a bloody...
He's firing up.
You can hear
Those
Richmond
glasses are
versus
fogging up.
Just win.
Richmond versus North Melbourne at every game across round 10 on Triple M and the Listener app. Starting tomorrow night, Thursday, rubber header Gold Coast versus Hawthorn. TAO Stadium, Darwin, Jack Everett, Kate McCarthy, Isaac Smith and Jay-Z Clark. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.